Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, I gotta admit, I woke up this morning, didn't really have any idea what I was gonna do for a vlog today, but I got up, started moving around the house, and fate kind of stepped in and answered that question for me. Let's show you what we're gonna do today. When I bought this house, this refrigerator came with it, and since it was a bigger, better refrigerator than the one I brought with me from California, I just elected to use it. Now, almost right off the bat, I discovered that there was a little bit of a problem with it. And I didn't connect entirely what the problem was, but periodically, especially like after a power failure, there would be like some motor that would start running in the back, and it was really loud, and you could hear it everywhere in the house when it ran. And I never really paid that much attention to it because almost as quickly as I got the house and got in here and discovered the problem, it just kind of went away. And I never really figured out what it was. It never crept up again. Well, about 2 weeks ago, I turned on the ice maker in the freezer and didn't make the connection with that I hadn't run it since almost the beginning of the house. And initially everything worked fine for a little while, and since it hadn't been used for a while, let it run for a bit just to kind of purge any gunk that might have been in the lines out of it. But I've been using it for an ice maker for the last couple weeks, and about 3 or 4 days ago that motor started grinding again, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and I still hadn't made the connection that it might have something to do with the ice maker. But at one point yesterday it started happening again. In fact, when I was shooting the vlog yesterday making the gumbo, I had to unplug the refrigerator for most of the scenes, otherwise you'd have been hearing this sound in the background coming from the refrigerator. And almost immediately I started thinking, you know what? This hasn't happened for a while. I haven't had the ice maker on for a while. I wonder if the problem is the ice maker itself. And so I decided, okay, I'm just going to turn off the ice maker and reset the refrigerator and see if it solves the problem. Well, it did solve the problem. It hasn't made that grinding noise, but when I woke up this morning, there was actually a puddle of water on the floor, and it kind of went all the way over there to the wall. And I realized, the refrigerator ice maker is leaking. And since I've turned off the ice maker, it isn't really that big of a deal to deal with it. But since there's still water going into the refrigerator, there's a leak in there somewhere, and that leak is causing a little problem with the floor. Luckily for me, I discovered it on a weekend day and got time to deal with it. Basically, I'm not going to try and fix this thing. I just want to turn the water off and just not use the ice maker anymore. This is the second refrigerator I've had that had an ice maker where the ice maker failed and ended up leaking water all over the place. And I just got to the point where on the other one, I just turned off the ice maker, never used it again, turned off the water to it, and it was never a problem again. And I think I got to do that with this today. I also want to pull those benches out away from the wall there because the water went all the way over to the wall there, and I want to make sure I got everything dried out so we don't have any mold or mildew issues. Now there is a little valve back here to turn off the water, but it's a little difficult to spin. I'm a little concerned about maybe the connection there, so I'm going to try and get the water turned off to the refrigerator. But I think before I do that, I want to go turn the water off at the main. That way, if something goes wrong and I break something here, I'm not flooding the whole house and then spending 5 or 10 minutes trying to find the wrench to go and turn the water off. So I'm going to start by turning off the water, and then we're going to pull the refrigerator out. We're going to try and turn off the water at the source back there, and then we're going to clean up our little mess. Alright, so this is the main water valve right here, and that little thing right there, that's how you turn it on and off. I rotated about 180 degrees, and that shuts off the water main at the street. So now I can safely open up the water line, and even if I break something in there, I'm not going to end up with a flood in the house, and that's a good thing. So let's move on into the house and get this problem resolved. Alright, so this is a valve in the back of the refrigerator to turn off the water to the refrigerator. And the valve's a little bit corroded, so I'm actually going to have to use a little bit of brute force to try and break this thing free. I'm not even sure which direction the knob goes, so we're going to kind of figure that out. Generally, it'll be a twist like this. Quarter of a turn should shut it off, but like I said, I can't even get the thing to move. And the fact that it kind of moves around in here. I'm not even sure what that means. It's connected up there. It doesn't appear to be leaking here, so I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is inside. And honestly, I discovered the leak this morning, and while I haven't turned the water off, I don't think it's leaking anymore. So it might have just been leaking when the ice maker itself was working, and when I turned it off, that solved that problem. But I want to eliminate it once and for all. We're just going to turn it off, disconnect this hose, and then it shouldn't be a problem anymore. Alright, so it took a little bit more brute force than I could do with my hands, but I used a pair of channel locks and a crescent wrench, and I have now been able to close this valve, so that isn't a problem. I'm a little concerned that the hose is all kind of twisted up, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to disconnect the hose from the valve, and we'll just kind of tape the hose up along the back of the refrigerator. Then in the future, if I ever want to hook something up again, I can do that and know that I'm completely disconnected from the water source, so there won't be any more leaking water in here. Alright, so as is often the case when you have hard water, sometimes these valves get stuck and they get kind of corroded, closed, or in this case open. And when I tried to close it, I thought I closed it all the way, but I didn't, and in the process of trying to close it all the way, I ended up breaking the valve off. So I had to kind of cut out a little bit above this, and we're going to have to do a little patchwork in here, but I'm going to have to pull this piece off, get a replacement one of these at Home Depot, and repair that. Fortunately at this point, like I said, I'm glad I turned the water off, because I would have had water spraying all over the house had I not done that. And you know, right now it can be managed with a bucket and that kind of thing. So I'm going to pull this little piece off here. We're going to run over to Home Depot, see if we can find a replacement. Alright, so we got that piece off. Like I said, I broke that end of it off, so we'll get this thing reconnected. We'll get a new one of these on here. I might even just put a cap on this thing and not even worry about having another valve there. But if I can find the valve, it'll probably make more sense to actually just replace that valve. So I'm going to run over to Home Depot. Let's get this thing going. This thing will probably drip a little bit, because what's ended up happening, since this is sort of an island in the house, which I don't know, might not have even been here when the house was built, they have to bring the water in from the roof. And so there's a lot of plumbing up there, and it's going to probably drip for a little bit, and that's just going to be part of the fun here. But you know, once I get a new valve on here, we'll be able to close this thing up and it won't be a problem anymore. Alright, so one of the funny things I've discovered about this house is that it seems to have a bunch of just Franken parts when it comes to plumbing. I've discovered this before when I've had to replace fittings in the yard and stuff like that. It seems like whoever put the plumbing in this place basically just grabbed whatever it was they had in the back of their truck and made it work somehow. And so a lot of times when you're going and looking for things at Home Depot, you don't find exactly what you want, because it's kind of some non-standard thing that somebody used. And this is another case here. I was not actually able to find another valve that would replace this thing, because this is a very non-standard thread. It looks like a 3/8 thread, but it doesn't fit with a typical 3/8 fitting. What I did, however, find was a cap that I can put on this that will fit, and that will seal the thing closed. So that's what I'm going to do for now. If at some point I want to add a new refrigerator that has an ice maker and I need to get water into it, then we'll have to address this situation at that time. But for now, this will work. This will stop the water from flowing, and that should ultimately solve the problem. So you can even see that this whole thing, even this thing here, was kind of put in kind of an odd way, because they got a piece of lumber back there that it screws into, and you know, they just drove some holes through it into the wood behind it. Normally it would be connected with these little pieces on the edge here, but like I said, they just kind of whatever they had, that's what they used. So that's one of the joys of being a homeowner, is discovered all the things that people did that they shouldn't have done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little Teflon tape on the threads on this thing, and then just screw it down as tight as I can. Like I said, this isn't the the actual kind of cap that you should use for this kind of thing, but it will work and it'll do the job. So in order to make sure we don't have any leaks, like I said, I'm going to put some Teflon tape on it, and that will help seal up the threads. All right, so I got that cap into place. What little water was flowing out of there has stopped flowing out. What I'm going to do actually now is that before I button everything back up is I'm going to go turn the water main back on, and let's make sure we still don't have any leaks when there's actual pressure in here. Alright, so I got the water back on, and this piece isn't doing it. It is still leaking a very little bit, and that's no good. We can't have that. So I think we're going to have to make another trip back to Home Depot and maybe bring over a larger piece of this and see if they can actually mate onto that better, because that ain't cutting it. And if it leaks even a little bit, it's going to get behind the refrigerator, it's going to get behind the drywall, you're going to have mold, you're going to have mildew, you're going to have all sorts of problems. So we aren't there yet. We're heading back to Home Depot. Alright, I'm back from Home Depot again. Basically, I've bought this whole contraption right here, and this is basically going to replace this thing here. It's not exactly what it should be, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to make that work. I'll be able to jam this inside of there, clamp it closed, and then feed this thing through the little plastic box that's the little access port on the wall for that, and we ought to be able to get this thing back together. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out going out in the garage, and I'm going to attach all this stuff together with Teflon tape and put it in the vise and crimp it down really tight so that it never ever comes out. Alright, so I got this back in there. Basically just clamped on this thing to the end of the hose and then went through the little access box and got the valve in here. And the valve opens and closes as it should. So next thing we're going to do is, once again, we're going to turn on the water and do a leak check. Alright, we got the water back on. I don't see any signs of leaks here. Everything feels real dry. I'm going to leave this open a little bit for maybe an hour or so just to make sure there are no leaks. And then we can kind of work on putting this thing back together, because I did a fair amount of damage to the wall doing this. Fortunately, I got this piece here, which should just fit right back into the original hole. But I got to do a little repair over here too, because I peeled off some of the paint and some of the underlying paper on there. I'm just going to probably try and glue that back into shape, and then we'll go over it a little bit with paint just to kind of make it nice and smooth. And like I said, this is behind the refrigerator, so if it isn't exactly a perfect drywall fix, it will still work all right. Like I said, I'm going to let this rest for a little while, and I think we'll probably end up coming back tomorrow and finishing up this after we get everything dried out in here and make sure that we don't have any further leaks. But at this point, I've got the water back on at the main. I got water in the house, which is the important thing, because we're coming to the end of the day and I don't want to go the night without having water. So the fact that I've been able to make it watertight and get a good valve here, I'm not going to open it now because water will come squirting out if I do, but the fact that I got it working now and not leaking, that's good news. That's 90% of the battle. Now we just got to fix the damage. So I think that's all that I have for today. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.